Round 5 of Matteo's Modern Monday Showdown, covered by Cardmarket, us. I'm here with Arne Huschenbeth, who is a Pro Tour champion, and we're ready to jump into our main feature match, which this round is Eli Loveman versus Luca Steiner. Eli, we've seen him before, especially in round 1 and the past round. He's on the white Hammertime, so he's looking to equip creatures and beat faces. Luca is on green, white Enchantress, a deck powered by Sithis, or two powerful editions from Modern Horizons 2. One is Sithis, and the other one, I can't remember the name of it.
Sanctum Weaver.
Yeah!
That's what I'm here for, guys. That's what I'm here for.
So this is going to be an interesting match because is Enchantress kind of a slower deck, like it's looking to build up a board state to then explode. Hammertime, the opposite. It's not looking to build up a huge board state. It's looking to suit up one creature with one equipment and beat faces.
It's Hammertime.
What do you think of the matchup, Arne?
I mean, that is I'm not an expert at Celestial Enchantress. I would say the Celestial player has to keep not. Yeah, I don't know.
Keep not dying.
Keep
maybe?
not dying. Yeah, English is a very tough language, but yeah, just survive somehow. I don't know what the tools are. Does he have Path to X on his deck? Will he have?
We'll have access to the deck lists later on. Right now, we're kind of in the dark about it, but Luca is already 3-1, so he has proven that he can perform against the top decks of Modern, because that is what's running around here. So let's get into the game here. Luca seems to be on the play as the Enchantress player, and let's see what he has to offer. A turn 1 abundant growth.
Alright, looks like Luca is on a mulligan.
So the Enchantress deck, of course, can catch up from a mulligan fairly well, right? Because with that draw engine, it gets going later on. Might be handy.
Yeah.
And we see an Esper Sentinel from Eli here. So Esper Sentinel, of course, for those who don't know, whenever your opponent casts a non-creature spell for the first time each turn, they must pay X, where X is the power of Esper Sentinel. And if they don't, Eli draws a card. So I assume there will be lots of card drawing going on here, Arne?
Probably. I mean, if we have a Sanctum Weaver here from Luca, he could perhaps dodge that Esper Sentinel annoying tax ability. But if not, he might have to pay. Or he might not be.
He might have to pay in the form of Eli's card advantage, because paying mana when you only have 2 lands available is certainly not going to be easy. So, we just got access to the deck lists of both players, which of course we're going to be looking at during sideboarding in detail. But Arne, is there any interaction that jumps to your mind? That jumps to your eye, I mean?
Apparently we are up to some interesting stuff with Jeskai Ascendancy here in the main deck, 2 copies.
Interesting, not something that I would have expected out of an Enchantress deck.
Yeah, we do. Look, Sanctum Weaver is of course here as well. And with Sanctum Weaver and Jeskai Ascendancy, you can, every enchantment untaps the Sanctum Weaver, makes more mana, and then, I mean, that's a ton of mana. If you can keep the enchantments rolling, which you can by casting enchantments, you draw cards with Ascendancy in play, discard, etc. And then with Enchantress Presence and Sithis, you churn through your deck and perhaps kill your opponent with that Jeskai Ascendancy.
Yeah, so Jeskai Ascendancy, of course, like a usual combo piece. Whenever you see that card get involved, it's up to no good. But you know who else is up to no good? That's Eli. He has a 12/12 Esper Sentinel right now. 11/11?
11/11.
Sorry,
It's just an 11/11. Calm down, Damon. It's just an 11/11. Oh my goodness, yeah.
So how do you think Luca is going to pay for that Esper Sentinel?
Well, we just saw. Eli was fairly confident in just drawing that card right there.
All right, so now all of Luca's enchantments do have Shroud, but that Eli doesn't care about that. Eli just does not care.
Eli has the nuts here. I mean, this is turn 1 Sentinel into Sigada's 8, and Colossus Hammer. This is just the abyss. 11 points of damage has to be chump blocked.
Yep, of course, Luca has to chump block every turn now, and with the Giver of Runes, he might not even be able to do that next turn. So this game is looking mighty good for Eli.
Yeah. Hammertime doing its thing. Even a Spell Pierce in hand right now. Eli must feel pretty good here.
Yeah, I mean, between Spell Pierce, Esper Sentinel drawing your cards, Giver of Runes giving you protection from blockers, there's not a lot that Luca can do, and yeah, he agrees. Scoops them up. And as we head into sideboards, we have decklists available, so we will bring them up for you right now on screen. We're starting with Luca, I think. Yeah, we're starting with Luca and the kind of combo Enchantress deck. We know that the main game plan is to cast enchantments, and especially with the Weaver, then generate a lot of mana. Now, what do we have in terms of sideboard cards? What's your eye going towards here, Arne, to bring in against the Hammertime
We
deck?
have some good ones, I can tell you that much. We have Stony Silence, 2 copies in the side mode, enchantment, as well as very, very, very strong against artifacts.
Of course, the hate enchantments giving even more utility because you're an enchantment-based deck.
There's also Force of Vigor, 1 copy. We have a copy of Seal of Primordium. We have 3 copies of Prismatic Ending. Could see that one brought in to remove Pure Steel Paladin?
Pure Steel Paladin.
Yeah. So there's some options for Steiner.
Now, taking out probably stuff like... Do you actually take out the Blood Moons?
That's an interesting one.
Because, Eli does have a fair amount of basics going on, but we're also turning off Inkmoth Nexus at the same time with the Blood Moon. Might be useful, but I think, that's on Luca to decide.
Yeah, I gotta say, Solitary Confinement is one I am not quite sure what is.
Solitary Confinement, that's an enchantment from, I think, Modern Horizons 2, if I'm not mistaken. It's a reprint, a 3 mana enchantment that lets you skip your draw step and makes you discard a card every turn. But in exchange, you have Shroud, and all damage that would be dealt to you is prevented. So it's kind of an easy way to buy time, and especially if Eli cannot interact with it, it's very hard for Eli to get through. Skipping your draw step, usually not a problem when you have a Sithis going on, because, you're drawing a bunch of cards off of that effect already.
Yeah. Wow. So perhaps that Sterling Grove was just 1 turn away from getting Solitary Confinement in the last game.
Yeah, true.
And could then have shut down. Although there was a Spell Pierce, to be fair. So in any case,
let's take another quick look at Eli's deck list.
Yes,
if possible, we'll jump in there. There's once again a bunch of counter spells in the sideboard. How do you feel about those, Arne? Are they necessary to keep maybe the Solitary Confinement or Jeskai Ascendancy combo pieces off the board?
Yeah, we see some Mana Leaks here and Spell Pierce from Eli's sideboard, 3 copies of Mana Leak. I think that one is reasonable to come in on the draw. I'm not the biggest fan it's difficult to keep up 2 mana when you want to deploy Stoneforge Mystics and other things. But nonetheless, it might be important to disrupt the combo pieces. Although there's a downside to them. Destiny Spinner is on the side of Luca Steiner. Destiny Spinner is a 2/3 that makes all enchantments and creatures uncountable.
Yeah, so those counter spells kind of... I'm also not sure how enfranchised Eli is with the up-to-date Enchantress deck list. I'll be interested to see what he brought in. Eli has the privilege. He can adjust his sideboard if he, realizes. Yeah.
There's 2 copies of March of Otherworldly Light. I assume that as a one way to exile enchantment.
Just kind of as a catch-all. Yes. It can't go wrong.
Absolutely. That one certainly comes in. Otherwise, not much going on. The counter spells, maybe. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what Eli does.
All right. As we jump into game 2, both players are drawing their opening hands. We see a Kaldra Complete, kind of not the card you want to draw naturally. You want to tutor that one up with Stoneforge Mystic, but Eli is happy with his hand. So is Lucas. So we're off to the races with a turn 1 Prismatic Vista, probably fetching a forest to cast either Utopia Sprawl or
Abundant Growth.
Abundant Growth, exactly.
I'm looking. I want to see some Jeskai Ascendancy.
For sure, I want to see the combo too. Or maybe just Luca going wild with the Weaver and the Sithis on its own. Fun fact: the the very first ever gameplay video I did on our Cardmarket YouTube channel, I played Sithis, like a Sithis Enchantress deck. I don't quite remember how that went, but it was fun.
A good memory to be had.
Production whispering to me that I won that match.
All right, even better.
So from Eli, we see, Arne, you weren't around for covering the last match, but the start of Urza Saga into Ornithopter plus Springleaf Drum, a very strong one because it enables Eli to create that construct token on turn 2, which is usually impossible, of course. Is the construct route a way you want to go in this matchup, or is it rather the combo way that you want to operate?
I believe you want to go with the combo instead of trying to be as slow with constructs. Not that constructs are necessarily slow, but I'm scared. Luca Steiner, if he assembles that confinement or what have you, Eli has to be fast. But Eli might not be knowing what he's up against.
Yeah.
Thinking that construct route is the way.
We'll see about that, especially, I mean, right now.
Yeah, I mean, it is turn 2. It is absolutely excellent to make a construct here.
And now, but it's turn 3 for Luca, right?
Yeah.
And he now has access to, if he has another land drop, to 6 mana. He has 5 mana right now, even, and depending on whether or not he deploys enchantments, he has access to even more mana. So this Enchantress deck just being crazy with the mana. 3 additional mana off that Weaver. Another, I don't know the name of the card, but it's basically an Enchantress.
Enchantress Presence, exactly. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, you draw a card. So we are setting up the good stuff. There's a spell piece now. Eli is like, I've seen enough. That one isn't.
Yeah, that one's not gonna resolve. Still, drawing a card for every enchantment that Luca casts is quite impactful, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And it's cast, so counter spells don't do so much.
Yeah, so Luca even drew a card off the second Enchantress Presence, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Absolutely.
He should have.
I think he did.
All right.
No construct though. That is the spell pierce he had to make a decision there, and now he won't get a construct in of time. But
all right. As Harry MTG is joining us from his stream, that's pretty nice. Earlier we received some Magic Online updates about Harry's Magic Online account because it was still linked with our Twitch account. Oh, yeah. Technical difficulty.
Well, thank you very much for the raid. I hope you had a great stream, Harry. We are you're joining us for some modern showdown at Spielfilmmusik action here.
As we're heading into turn 3 for Eli, untapping without a construct because of that spell pierce. The construct, the spell pierce coming at a steep cost. As Eli now has to decide whether or not to let go of that Urza Saga without creating a construct, or if he's down to receive that XX. But Eli in a tough spot. I mean, your opponent is about to untap with 7 mana and an Enchantress Presence on board.
Yeah. I mean, Eli has the Pure Steel Paladin in hand, so you can get the hammer, play the Paladin. Technically, he could do that. He decides not to. He decides to make a construct and wait a turn. I know why he's waiting a turn. We also see an Inkmoth Nexus in his hand.
Yeah.
So he's going to play that Inkmoth Nexus, get this hammer right now, and then next turn he's going to play the Paladin and attack for 11 poison in the air. I assume that is his plan.
Does he have enough mana to activate the Inkmoth Nexus twice after casting the Paladin?
That is a good question.
I don't think he does, but either way, that's going to force a chump block at the very least. Even if it's not in the air, it's going to be a chump block, right? And getting a chump block out of a Sanctum Weaver potentially would be great. So now it looks like it's all on Luca to use this turn. He set up last turn, and now it's all on him to use this turn that he set up for to make the best of it.
Yeah.
Cat first, starting off with the Sanctum Weaver. What's he looking for here?
Solitary Confinement would be a nice one. We know about the one copy is Force of Vigor. I believe Stony Silence shuts. I'm not entirely sure how it works.
It does.
Shuts off the Pure Steel Paladin.
Yeah, so Stony Silence has a weird interaction going on where it does shut off the Pure Steel Paladin because the Paladin says equipping costs 0, but it does not shut down Sigarda's Aid.
Mm-hmm.
Because that one simply sticks the equipment on the creature.
Well, yeah, but in this situation, I think the 8 is not... Yeah, I mean, the hammer is already in play. I think we have Windswept Thief Paladin, so next turn, Eli has lethal. I think I saw it. Oh, there's the.
Oh, there's the confinement. And now we're off to the races. Solitary confinement reading Luca skips his draw step, but that's not going to matter to him.
Yeah. Luca is just going to go. Like, Luca secured himself so much time now.
Yeah, this is going to take a while for Eli to get through, if ever, because now, like, Eli needs to have an answer to the confinement. Otherwise, it's not going to leave play.
Yep. We're looking at the too much of otherworldly light.
Are those the only answers available to Eli?
I believe that is the only way he can actually deal with the permanent.
So he's drawing to a 2-off in his deck to deal with that enchantment. Otherwise, it's not looking good for him. Now, Eli does not know whether or not Luca still has enchantments in hand, right? Luca needs to keep the chain going somehow. If he runs out of enchantments, it's not looking good for him. But if he manages to, string together multiple enchantresses and such, then it's looking great for him. So Eli still has to play as if Luca is just bricking, right? So Eli still has to make the best to develop his board.
Reality Chip is a great start. Reality Chip will allow Eli to dig faster through his deck and to find himself those marches.
Of course, as long as Reality Chip is equipped, you may cast spells off the top of your library for free. Not for free. You may cast them off the top of your library. So that might dig him back into the game.
Maybe. But this is I think I give the advantage bar. We might know that one. I would give that one to Luca.
All right. As we head into Luca's turn, I see multiple enchantments. Now the solitary confinement. Wait, why did that one leave play?
Wait, what? What does it say?
At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice solitary confinement unless you discard a card. So I assume what's about to happen is Jessica Ascendancy stuff, and Luca probably has another confinement in hand. That's the thing my mind jumps to, but I'm not sure if that's the case.
Yeah, maybe Luca just decided, hey, I don't need this anymore because, yeah.
And it's time to go wild. This is what we signed up for when we, entered this feature match. So these Weavers each create 5 mana, so that's 10 mana. And Jessica Ascendancy says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, untap all creatures you control. They gain +1/+1 until end of turn. Also, you draw a card and you discard a card while you're at it. So that's 10 mana of 2 different colors, probably green and white. And now Abundant Growth is a non-creature spell, so that untaps all creatures. And now, how could this kind of fizzle, Arne? How can this go wrong?
I mean, he's drawing a card of Enchantress Presence every time he does this. Abundant Growth draws a card. Jessica Ascendancy draws a card. I think this is... Look at all this mana. He just needs to find a Destiny Spinner at some point. Then he can turn his lands into huge trampling creatures.
That's a Sithis, so now there's 2 draws per enchantment, and now Luca is just going through the motions. I mean, you get to draw for each time, you get to loot for each time you cast an enchantment. At this point, that's a whole ton of mana. Is there any direct way for Luca to win the game? Because the usual thing you would do is maybe cast a Destiny Spinner, animate all your lands. Those then also get pumped by the Jessica Ascendancy. So unless your opponent has, 20 blockers or something, or like 10, you're not going to get around it. Is there something like a Banefire or anything that kills immediately?
I don't think there is. So it's down to Destiny Spinner or these... Well, there it is. And with all the mana, you can... You can also make the land... Like the Utopia sprawled land into a creature, and then with Ascendancy in play, every spell will untap that land too.
So you get even more mana. Yeah. So the only worry here would be decking. I'm not sure between Sithis, Enchantress Presence, and Jessica Ascendancy. I'm not sure how many May triggers there are. Because if there are forced draw triggers while the deck is empty, you lose. That's how Magic works, right?
Yes.
So that's like the only thing I could see going wrong here. The Sterling Grove, I think, is being cast. Yes. It should be in play, which gives additional security to Luca when executing this combo, and now he can just spend a bunch of mana onto animating his lands, right? And then go from there.
Why did those 3 basics on top?
I think he animated them in response to some trigger or something. I assume that's what happened, that they have already become animated. Oh yeah, the Sterling Grove was on the stack.
He probably used all his mana to animate all of... Okay, that makes sense. Yep. I see what you're saying.
So now on Thin Ice is another way to remove blockers, but I mean, at this point, Luca has a bunch of attackers.
They're all huge.
Yeah. Eli, realizes the cards are not stacked up in favor for him, sitting with that reality chip in hand. And that's the power of an unhandled Sanctum Weaver. And
I'm in awe. I mean, Luca seemed like he was absolutely... Yeah, he looked like he knew what he was doing. He went through that combo quick and swiftly, put the cards, lined them up, trigger after trigger, resolved it, and did every step of the way.
So while our players are sideboarding for Game 3, we'll take a look at our backup match, which once again is Domain Zoo. Last round, it did not make the cut, like it didn't win and didn't make it into the top 8 that way, against Grixis Death Shadow. So both of those obviously playing for top 8 at this point. What do you expect of that matchup as we go into our backup match?
Oh, that's gotta be a dangerous one for the Shadow player. The Zoo player, we had him earlier on, I believe in round 3, and he had Lightning Bolts, Tribal Flames, and Lightning Helix. So if the Shadow player goes too low, he might just get burned out. Yeah,
playing as a Death Shadow deck against playing Death Shadow against Burn Spells is always an awkward dance between keeping your Death Shadow at a reasonable size, but also not dying to Burn Spells.
Absolutely. We get a Florian mirror match.
Yeah, how is this a Florian mirror match and a Gigantha mirror match? That's just wild.
And they lined them up perfectly to face off against each other. Also, both in foil?
Very nice.
Just one foil?
Maybe the one, like, I don't know if the full art is foil. Anyways, that doesn't matter, as Florian starts off on a Dragon's Rage Chandler. Of course, that is the Grixis Death Shadow Florian.
Yeah, we got the Zoo player already up a game. Tribal Flames was successful in 1 game. And I see a Path to Exile, which is an excellent card against Grixis Shadow.
Yeah, so what's the... I think Florian's first priority probably had, like, Zoo's first priority has to be setting up their own board, right? To kind of get a board presence going.
Yeah, I mean, Florian's deck is a little more mid-rangey than you would expect Zoo to be. I think he can comfortably play a longer game with Sharpest Agent and Bloodbraid Elf for card advantage, and he has all these cheap burn spells. I think if I'm Florian Böhme here on the 5-color Zoo deck, I'm looking to Lightning Bolt these early creatures and then grind my opponent out with my Haymaker Cascade cards.
All right, in that case, when you're kind of opting for such a strategy, I assume that Ledger Shredder is a huge threat to you, because that one in longer games where you kind of grind out your way, it's gonna trigger so often and grow so big.
Yes, absolutely, and you don't want to have it get 4 toughness, because then Helix and Lightning Bolts don't target it.
You have mentioned the Path to Exile in 5-color Zoo's hand. Would you fire that off right now to be mana efficient, or is it kind of dangerous giving your expressive iteration opponent 3 mana on turn 2, or rather 4 mana on turn 3?
It is a little dangerous. I don't know if Florian, if the Grixis Shadow player mulliganed here. If they mulligan, I'm more inclined to give them an extra land, because then I know they might have less to do.
Yeah, they might have fewer resources.
It really depends on the rest of the Zoo player's hand. If I want to path here, but I think it's absolutely reasonable. I mean, if he has if he has a 2-drop and a 3-drop lined up, I think it's absolutely reasonable to do a path to Exile.
So what can you tell from the hand? I think there is at least a Forest and Temple Garden, so multiple land drops.
He's really in the tank here with land to get. I mean, that is maybe you sometimes mess up, right? You get the wrong combination of lands, and it can cost
like
you a game.
All of those 4-color, 5-color decks, fetching with those decks, selecting the right lands, it's just wild.
That is a mini game in itself that you have to succeed in to be successful.
Yeah, so Florian Böhme playing that mini game right now.
Yeah, that might have been the longest fetch I've ever seen. We're breaking records here.
And then the additional question is, do you shock? Do you not shock? Do you path? I feel like path it has been discussed time and time again. Path is such an awkward removal spell where you give your opponent additional resources to work with, but then you take away, their biggest threat. So weird.
Looks like we decide for a tap's demons.
All right.
Interesting.
I mean, it goes well with the Temple Garden to start giving you domain.
Absolutely.
Then afterwards, you're only looking for a swamp.
Yep.
Also enables cards like Lightning Helix, Lightning Bolt, and another Stomping Ground. Probably not what Florian Böhme wanted to see here, because you already have that Forest and Temple Garden in hand. You're kind of flooding out a bit.
Yeah. Temple Garden is going down to 14.
So now I assume we're going to see a 2-drop? No, a Path to Exile.
Interesting. Not even in the upkeep, huh? I would have liked to see an upkeep Path to Exile there.
All right, and I think if I can tell that correctly, afterwards Florian Böhme will just pass back the turn. What do you think of... I think Florian Böhme should have something to develop his board in his hand, right? What do you make of the decision of between dealing with Ledger Shredder or developing your board this turn? Because casting a single spell wouldn't have triggered the Shredder.
That's a good point. I think I saw a Territorial Kavu, which is this 4/4 here and a nice play. I do agree. I think I would have played the Kavu here. Use my mana efficiently, and the Shredder, I can Path to Exile later on. Later on, the extra mana source will have less impact, hopefully too. So I would have gone with the Kavu, I believe.
Yeah, taking maybe a few hits off the Shredder.
Yeah, it's not that big.
Yeah. Now we see an expressive iteration, and my initial impulse was like, no, what's he doing? He has already played a land and is now casting iteration. But no, he has not played a land yet, because that Path to Exile just giving resources to Florian Böhme that he would not have had otherwise. That expressive iteration is going to be an Anticipate, though. That spell is not going to get cast this turn.
No, he has a Pluto Delta in hand, actually.
Oh, he does?
Yeah. So you can exile Ragavan and play the Delta.
And then cast our favorite monkey.
Yeah.
And so now, the Kavu is going to be a 4/4, right? So it's out of Unholy Heat range. But for how long?
True. But so far, no Delirium. So I think the last... Oh, there's a Heat. Yeah, okay. But there's a Colorance command. So the Colorance command in hand will be an instant for Delirium. So Heat might be enabled next turn.
Yeah, and so Florian Böhme probably in a tough spot because he cannot develop his own board and is being beaten down by Grixis Shadow at the same time. And that Ragavan coming down right now, it's going to make things difficult. Not looking good for Florian Böhme, so it looks like we're going to see a game 3 on this one.
Yeah, and you see again, Path to Exile here, really on the draw already, giving that extra land. Grixis Shadow made good use of that extra land, and that just put him so far behind.
Florian Böhme has used every mana available so far, I think.
Yes, that was absolutely... Yeah, I Path to Exile. A Lightning Bolt would have been much better there.
Yeah. Tough. Oh, and there's the Lightning Bolt right on time off the top of the library.
Okay. I mean, I see a Rest in Peace, so we can go Forest, Rest in Peace, Lightning Bolt, the Ragavan. We're facing off against 2 1/1s. That seems like a good line of play. I think I can also spot an Abrupt Decay.
Let's see if Böhme agrees.
Yeah. There's the Rest in Peace.
Yeah. And now I feel much better also about the Territorial Kavu, because that Kavu isn't going anywhere, except you're getting like double heated. So that Rest in Peace coming in clutch for Florian Böhme here. Because now, I mean, you're facing down 2 1/1s. That's half a Lingering Souls.
Oh, expressive iteration off the top here. That was a big one to get back into this game. Without that draw step, Florian Böhme wouldn't have done much here. Just attack for 2 and Colorance command in hand with a Rest in Peace in play. Not looking too good.
So what do you think of the Rest in Peace? Is that just gonna stick there for the rest of the game? Is that going to be the defining card of this match, of this game rather?
It's certainly doing a ton of work right here, shutting these, making these Dragon Rage Chandler into just 1/1 Surveil 1, still not that bad, still cycle 2 for your deck, but hey, Recipes is doing a lot of work here. Unholy Heat shutting out that one off is big too.
And Grixis is not known for dealing with enchantments, is it? Like there's no answer in
They
in
might
Florian
have
Bremer's deck?
engineer explosives usually in the sideboard, but I'd be surprised if Bremer brought that in. Here we have an interesting decision. We have Ragavan, Death Shadow, and Expressive Iteration with the Expressive Iteration revealed. I would be inclined to put the Shadow in hand and the Expressive Iteration into exile here.
Interesting. Passing on the Ragavan. Isn't Ragavan the only creature that's still good while the Rest in Peace is in play? You could even dash it this turn, get a free hit in.
I could see that. I could see that. Ragavan and Shadow are kind of close. Shadow has the upside if you with the other Expressive Iteration find fetch land, you make it a 4/4, and then you really hit hard. Ragavan and Shadow are close, and as you can see here, Bremer is not sure on which one to exile, but he's choosing the Ragavan.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna see a Ragavan probably dashed here, and maybe Florian Bremer can just find good creatures off of Böhme's deck. Like, who cares? My creatures suck. I'll take yours. That's the way to go. But for now, we'll go back to our main feature match because we have been holding the match so far, but we don't want to have our players wait any longer on that one because we do have a tournament to get through. So we'll jump right into game 3 between green-white / blue-red Enchantress and blue-white Eli Loveman Hammertime. So we see Sigarda's Aid being answered by Prismatic Ending. Is that an aggressive use of the ending, or is that just the thing you have to do?
That is, I would be satisfied if I'm Luca exiling that Sigarda's Aid. That is an extremely dangerous card with Colossus Hammer, and I'm happy to see that trade for Luca.
All right, and the turns keep on coming, but Eli being very mana efficient here. Stoneforge Mystic. Now, I've talked about this with Toffel, I think, earlier, where the Hammertime deck is split into 2 halves. Like, there's a combo half, and there's this Stoneforge Urza Saga midrange half. And we've seen in game 2 how the midrange half kind of failed Eli because it was too slow to pressure Luca. Do you think the same thing is going on with Stoneforge Mystic here?
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that statement. I think you have to be extremely fast and color complete. 5/5, yeah, that's a decent clock, but it's just a 4-turn clock so far.
Yeah. I mean, of course, Eli is just going to make the best of a situation that he's in. So that Stoneforge Mystic was probably his best play, but he probably hoped that Sigarda's Aid was sticking around, right?
Yes. Look at his hand. He has double hammer.
Yeah, so Eli's hand looking mighty useless now. At least there's this Urza Saga. So if Luca stumbles, if Luca doesn't, like, the card that Luca needs right now is a Sanctum Weaver, isn't it? Like, that's the card that gets him off the ground?
That's the card that gets him going. I think he would already be happy with... I mean, the Solitary Confinement is probably ultimately what he needs to survive. The Sanctum Weaver would be a nice play here to set up for later turns. But with the Sterling Grove on turn 2, I don't think he has the Weaver in hand.
Yeah, Sterling Grove on turn 2 is not the thing you want to see when, as the Enchantress player,
Yes.
right? It's a setup card for later on.
Yeah.
And as it stands, there's an Abundant Growth, and now Luca needs an impactful 2-drop. Either Sithis or Weaver could do the job. But the way he's tanking, that's not the face of someone who has found a Sanctum Weaver.
Yeah.
A single white mana might... no, 2 mana, all right. Let's see. Of course, any 2-drop that Luca might play, also protected by the Sterling Grove. But right now it looks like On Thin Ice is being cast. So that's the only 1 white spell I think that's available. Taking out the Germ token. And now Eli is stuck with 3 equipments that are terribly expensive to equip. And no way to equip them.
How much is Cover Complete to equip? 7, I think?
It's certainly expensive. And I don't think Eli is nearing that amount of mana anytime soon. As you're correct, it is 7.
Yeah, forget about it. Okay. Yeah, Eli is looking for Sigarda's Aid and Pure Steel Paladin. Probably going to sack that Silent Clearing.
For sure.
Anytime soon. Probably next turn. We'll see if Luca can capitalize on the time he gained.
All right,
Ooh.
that's a Sanctum Weaver, and that's the card that gets Luca going. So now it's on for Luca and for Eli, because both players know what's about to happen, right? That Sanctum Weaver generates 4 mana. Was that a Pure Steam?
I believe it was.
Oh, that's Pure Steel Paladin is huge, because that forces the jump block out of the Weaver.
Can he get Shadow Spear? And then have trample?
He can.
Yeah.
He can, and the equip is free too, so this is just straight up lethal. A lethal top deck for Eli Loveman, drawing the Pure Steel Paladin, unless Luca has something to say about that.
It's looking bad. There's one copy of Force of Vigor attacking spot that can disrupt this from happening here.
Yeah, no legendary creature in play for Luca, so Boseiju is not an option. And as it stands, that it doesn't look good. No, it doesn't look good at all. For Luca, it looks like Eli Loveman is about to advance into the top 8 of today's showdown.
Let's see.
Equipping Caldra complete on the Stoneforge Mystic.
Why not?
Casting a hammer. Taking 1 in the process.
Talking about equipments are being too expensive. Well, not anymore.
Yeah, not anymore. As Eli takes a draw off the Pure Steel Paladin.
Oh yeah, get some value. Why not?
I think we're missing a tapped mana. No,
that was a Saga.
Urza Saga floated a mana at the start of turn. Silent Clearing being tapped, costing 1 mana. Another hammer. So now Force of Vigor would have to take out both hammers. And Luca realized that. What a crazy top deck.
Yeah.
Without that top deck, Luca would have had the turn. He could have deployed. He shows his cards in hand. There's a Jeskai Ascendancy and a Stony Silence. That could have been a huge setup turn. He could have cracked the Sterling Grove, for any enchantment he might have needed.
Yeah.
Wow, what a wild top deck. So we know that Eli is in our top 8. We know that Simon is in our top 8. We know that Levin is in our top 8 with the Amulet Titan. Now it's time to find out between the Florian mirrors, in the Florian mirror, between 5-color Domain Zoo and Grixis Death Shadow, who's moving on to the top 8. So let's jump back to our backup match, where we're still in game 2, the one that we watched earlier, where that Rest in Peace stabilized for Florian Böhme. Let's jump into our backup match.
I saw Luca Steiner just... He might be thinking about that Stony Silence. Anyways, let's take a look at this board state.
We see still the Dragon Rage Channeler on Florian Bremer's side of things, and the Rest in Peace also still in play for Florian Böhme. So most of Florian Bremer's deck is still turned off by the missing graveyard. There's no graveyard, and without that, the Dragon's Rage Channelers are off. The Unholy Heats are turned off. There's just so much missing from the Grixis deck without a graveyard. As it's currently...
You see a Kolaghan's Command being cast.
I'm not sure about the targets here. Let's see. It's always weird jumping into an ongoing game, but we'll see in a second. What's being targeted exactly here? The Death Shadow should currently be a 5/5 if I'm not mistaken. And I think there's still the Territorial Kavu in play.
Yes, it's tapped right now. Not quite sure what.
I'm not.
Whose turn it is?
Yeah, I
we'll
think
figure that out when someone taps.
Okay, so we just got the light totals corrected. That Florian Bremer is on 10 rather than 8. And Florian Böhme facing down quite the attack of the Death Shadow. Half his life total would be gone if stuff happens as it currently is. All right.
Are we doing combat here?
Maybe we are. The way, the fact that territorial Kavu is tapped gives me a feeling that Böhme has Lightning Helix in hand. Because, like, as the zoo player, you can be fairly, easy with your life total if you have Lightning Helix. Like, Lightning Helix is really good when racing, as Craig Jones has shown us way back then, right?
Absolutely. I see a Saga. I see a Saga, but it's not castable right now. It is Hidetsugu consumes all, which is amazing on this board state against Grixis Shadow, but he needs black mana. So next turn.
Yeah, next turn it's time for Hidetsugu consumes all. Yeah. That one on its first chapter exiles all 1-cost permanents.
That is correct. One line is not correct. It is just destroy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But it exiles. What happened?
So
he drew with the Kavu and he was tanking on that.
What? Oh no, I thought that was the call against command. No, okay, that was the...
Oh, we're not in his... Okay, we're in the turn of Bremer, discard Kodan's command, make him discard, and Böhme just chose to discard the heal.
I think that's what's happening.
Yeah. Interesting.
And with the Helix discarded, like, Böhme can feel the pressure, right? Like, suddenly, you're not on virtual 11 anymore. Suddenly, you're on virtual 4 with that attack from the Death Shadow and Dragon's Rage Channeler coming in. And in theory, that could even become... Wait, isn't this just lethal?
So the Shadow is a 3/3 right now. You can fetch it, shock, go to 7. It's a 6/6. Ragavan in hand is another 2 plus 1 from the Dragon Rage. That's 6 plus 1 plus 2. That is more than enough.
Yeah, that's just lethal. So if Florian decides to fetch, shock, dash Ragavan, that's just a lethal attack.
Yeah.
And Florian Böhme, I mean, of course, he can't know of the Ragavan in hand, but I think I would have... I don't know. I'm a very conservative player. I usually opt for the safe line. But, okay, Florian Böhme does not opt for the Ragavan, thinking... if my opponent discards the Lightning Helix, their other card is better.
Yeah,
right? It's better than Lightning Helix. It's at the very least another Helix. No, he is going for the... No.
Fetch tapped, attack for 4 to get him in 2 turns, but this exactly ran into Florian Böhme's plans of Hidetsugu.
What a tough decision. Yeah. Deciding between the slow line... It's a decision you often make, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was... And he discarded the Lightning Helix. Oh, man.
What a risky discard, too.
Yeah, what a risky discard. That was ballsy.
But getting paid off big time as the Kavu still is a 5/5, getting Florian down to 4.
And now we see a Scion of Draco joining the party as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean... the advantage bar, I do think I know in which one's favorite.
It's smashing Florian Böhme's side of the board. As the Kavu heads in, do you have to loot?
No, you don't. It's a May. You can choose to do nothing.
I mean, with that Rest in Peace in play, you're just making your library smaller. Who cares?
Wow. Yeah. Florian Böhme might regret not going for lethal there.
Yeah, I think when he goes back to watch this, like, at the same time, I can't blame him. If my opponent is discarding a card that prevents lethal, I assume their other card would also prevent lethal. Maybe that's a bit one-sided thinking where
it's a tough call to make.
Yeah, it's a very tough call to make, and we don't want to pretend like it's so easy sitting in the booth being like, oh yeah, all these cards in hand are known to me. I know exactly what to do. No, that's not the situation that these players are in. They're playing for top 8 right now because this is our final round of Swiss. So they have a bunch of pressure on them. They don't know what their opponent has in hand. They don't know what their opponent has had in hand for the entire game. And so they have to, make much more difficult decisions. As Florian Böhme is digging for an answer, but I don't think he can find it.
Is that a dress down?
It is.
If that's a dress down, it just kills off the Kavu, doesn't it?
It does, but the Scion remains in play.
Yeah, that flies. And Böhme doesn't have blockers.
But then again, can you really let that Ragavan through when your opponent has shown you cards like Kolaghan's Command? Can you go down to 2? Or is that another discarded Lightning Helix kind of situation where it's very risky?
This game is interesting. It's not quite over yet. I mean, you get the blocker with the Saga on the next turn. Right up off the top here.
Oh my goodness. What a top deck. So that even on its own forces a block out of the Ragavan. And another territorial Kavu enters the battlefield. So now the Scion gets through.
Wait a minute, how does this work? Did he in the upkeep dress down? No, he used dress down his own turn, right?
Yeah, he did.
So, but did he do it in the end step maybe?
Maybe.
And therefore it stays, and then until the next end step. That's a smart play.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
If that is what happened, very smart. Either way, that Bloodbraid Elf is going to trade for the Ragavan, and the Scion will probably get through unblocked, because that leads to a lethal attack next turn.
You know what could happen? If he goes for the lethal attack, Bremer could top deck Ragavan and find a Lightning Helix or a Lightning Bolt or a Tribal Flames.
That would be a Craig Jones repeat kind of situation.
Yeah. The Lightning Helix. Again.
Actually, chat being smarter than us, pointing out Bloodbraid Elf doesn't have haste, Arnim.
Oh, the dress down, of course.
You know, us talking about how smart it is to cast it, in the end step. So right now it doesn't have any abilities. No creature has any abilities, so the Scion doesn't even get through.
Yeah.
Because it is not flying.
Yeah.
And now Florian Bremer entering his turn with a bunch of cards in hand, but no board presence, versus Florian Böhme's situation of a lot of board presence, but no cards in hand. Top decking all day.
I think I saw it drawn in the log. That one is also shut off by Rest in Peace. Rest in Peace, and one of the best sideboard cards against Grixis Shadow.
Absolutely crazy. Like, the amount of work that Rest in Peace has done this game is ridiculous.
Yeah. You would think that with Luris gone, it doesn't do as much damage anymore, but no, it still is very, very good against this deck. Yeah, Bremer in the tank here. Looking at lethal. It's not looking good. Scion of Draco also gives all sorts of abilities to multicolored creatures, right? So
I think it does, yeah. But I'm not sure if that's Florian Bremer's biggest worry. But nevertheless, they are checking the wording on that card right now, I think. So we'll see what Bremer does with that situation, because this is a dicey one. There's not a lot of ways for him to get out of it. It has to start with a bunch of removal or blockers. That qualifies as a blocker, and most importantly, it can also get rid of that Drown in the Lock, maybe, right?
Perhaps he was trying to figure out if he can target a thing with Drown in the Lock, but he cannot actually do so. Because if he could have targeted a creature, at least, then he could have triggered the Ledger Shredder and get rid of that Scalding Tarn in hand, but that is not possible. So
Hidetsugo consumes all, transforming into the vessel.
Yeah. Does the Scion give haste to red creatures? Or does it give first strike? What's the red ability? That card has so much text. Scion of Draco.
Yeah, a card as old as, I don't know, when did it come out? I don't remember.
I think it was one of the many crazy Modern Horizons cards. It gets first strike if it's red. Yeah, okay. So no haste for the vessel. So you can chump block again to survive one more turn, going down to 2 life.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, this is just so many creatures. Another Rest in Peace, a backup Rest in Peace, let's go.
Why not?
Let's cast that. You know, just in case Grixis finds, I don't know how they find a way to deal with that. I mean, Engineered Explosives would still get rid of both, and that's the handshake, or rather the fist bump from Florian Bremer as he concedes, which means we know that the Domain Zoo deck, maybe a deck that not everyone has on their radar going into Modern, has made it into the top 8 of the Matthäus Modern Monday Showdown here.
Well done to Florian Böhmer. Absolutely loving to see more action of that spicy Brew. I've never seen that deck before in the top 8. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I mean, we've got a lot of spicy decks going into the top 8. Like, this was our final Swiss round, just as a reminder. We played 5 rounds of Swiss, and we already know that there's this crazy 4-color
Glimpse, Omnav, Elementals.
Glimpse, Omnav, like we've seen that from Simon Nielsen, who's in attendance. That deck is in the top 8, so we'll see more of that. We know that Hammertime is in the top 8, right?
Yeah, Eli Loveman.
Eli Loveman, another mythic champion. We know that
Amulet
Titan.
Yep.
Has made it.
Yeah. Andrea Mengucci was at 3-1 before the round.
Yeah, we'll find out how he did. We'll let you know probably in Twitch chat once we figure that out. So this top 8 is going to be exciting because, oh my god, I think almost all of our attending pros have made it into the top 8. This is just crazy. As a reminder, maybe if you've just joined, this is Matteo's Monday Modern Showdown. So this has been a league going on in Berlin, of all places, for a couple of weeks already, right? These players gather every week. They played it out. Their best competitors are playing today. And then we, as Cardmarket, covering this event, we kind of thought, why not spice things up? Face them with some pro players, which we brought. In attendance are Andrea Mengucci, Simon Nielsen, and Eli Loveman, all Pro Tour or Mythic champions.
Simon Nielsen, just a finalist, but hey, that guy won multiple GPs. He is one hell of a player and is going to play at the World Championship this year too.
He will.
Maybe he will get that PT trophy at some point as well.
Either way, so this top 8 is shaping up to be spicy. With that being said, right now, we'll have to wait for breakers. We'll have to wait for the final results of the final round. And then we'll be back with the top 8. So don't go anywhere. We'll walk you through some deck lists in our break time. And then we'll see you in the top 8.
See you then, guys.